Hey everybody, what up? All right, so the guy that was co-founder of OpenAI and kicked Sam Altman off the board, I guess sometime last year, and then ended up retiring from the board or stepping down from the board at OpenAI shortly after that because they brought Sam Altman back, and it was just big news at the time. Obviously, a lot of shakeups. When OpenAI was started, I guess it got its name. OpenAI had Elon Musk as early investor, but it was supposed to be right for protection of like super intelligence and all this. And somewhere along the way, like they created ChatGPT, and then by the time ChatGPT through, I guess it was 4.0, whatever it came out in 2023 or 4.0, I believe. That obviously was like super impressive, and it seems like everything's changed since that time, and that would be like early 2013. We still have jobs, so when that came out, like everybody was saying, like all the programmers be gone in 6 months and all this, and like I was saying at the time, no, that's not possible because if that's the case, then pretty much every other job is going to be obsolete as well. And here, if we fast forward, coming up on a year and a half, closing in on 2 years now, since that, we're still at the same point where it's like people think that the super intelligence is right around the corner, that all programmer jobs will be obsolete and this and that. And I will be the first to admit that these tools are great. I use them every day. ChatGPT being better than I think anything else. I do like Copilot. I will say though that like even yesterday I'm working on a rather basic problem, and I'm asking Copilot, and it's like sending me down this rabbit hole of different ideas and solutions and things, and it just I guess whatever it is, it was completely wrong, and I ended up doing a good old fashioned Google search, which it seems like I rely on a little bit less these days, or actually quite a bit less. But I end up finding the answer on Stack Overflow, and the answer on Stack Overflow was very clean. It actually worked, unlike 8 or 9 different suggestions that Copilot was making to me, and it made me realize like sometimes like we're definitely relying on these tools to the point where we can become lazy because programmers are lazy. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. If we like to solve puzzles and problems, right? But there's many of those to solve in a given day. So, trying to get one little feature to work or some little library to do what it is that you're trying to get it to do, you want to save that the brain power and computing power and all that, so that you can focus on other problems and larger scale problems, because that's ultimately what technology is. I mean, we have these tools that makes things a little more efficient at what we do. We can build more complicated things, but there's always some problem to solve, right? So tinkering around when you're getting paid to solve big problems, you don't have time to do that. And most programmers probably don't have time to do that. And therefore, we're relying on these tools quite a bit to provide us suggestions to focus on those larger problems. And I think the problem with that is that we're writing a lot of sloppy, terrible code, code that we don't even really understand, code that we assume is working because the chat model, whatever chat functionality we're communicating with, spit it out to us, right? And it's like copying and pasting Stack Overflow code to a whole new level. And that's just the way things are going to be, right? And then as we continue to do that, my question is going to be like, well, what happens when the model starts learning off of basically terrible output? We're seeing fake videos, fake photos, all kinds of AI generated content, whether it's question answer forums like Reddit or Stack Overflow, or writing all the blogs and things. There's a lot of garbage and spam that is out there, and it's continuing to be pushed out there. In fact, I remember when ChatGPT first came out, like somebody wrote like 50 digital books on Amazon about all kinds of programming stuff. And inside the books, there was like, obvious phrases like I'm an AI chatbot. I don't know how to answer this or whatever. Like it was just all this copy paste stuff. So like since this has come out, this was one of the biggest concerns with OpenAI when they released this, was that like people are going to use it for scamming, for spamming, and all that. And we're seeing that obviously to a great degree, including the AI models that can now replicate your voice, and they can do it pretty well. So it's a good opportunity for just spam callers. I get spam calls, it seems like, on my iPhone every day, all day long. It's worse now than it's ever been. And I think a lot of that has to do with this type of garbage. But anyway, that all said, this guy has now raised $1 billion on this company, Safe Superintelligence Incorporated. This is their website, and I kind of love it how like it is just so plain and so basic. Reminds me of Berkshire Hathaway, but like I don't know that anybody's raised $1 billion faster than this guy. And if you were going to bet on anybody in the AI space, it's probably this dude. He's a big part of ChatGPT and OpenAI, and just working with Jeffrey Hinton, who is like the godfather of neural networks and AI and all this. And like he goes back to like working on Google, like with Google and a lot of anyway, he's like co-signing a lot of papers. Like, dude's obviously like a complete genius. And you can tell by the hairline, he just doesn't care. You know what I mean? Like that's some confidence. It's like, I'm one of the smartest people in the world and I just don't care. Anyway, like, so this company has now raised $1 billion, and it's basically the same mission as OpenAI. It's like, hey, we're going to try to develop super intelligence, artificial general intelligence, which is not the same thing as AI because we sort of transferred the goalpost when ChatGPT came out. It's like the Turing test was no longer valid really because we didn't really know, computers can now fool us whether or not we're actually communicating with a computer or a human. So I feel like, with these natural language processing, massive iterations over human language has been able to create a guess the next right word to like a great degree, like a greater degree than we ever thought was possible. And like, it's it's obviously amazing, but the question is it really general intelligence? So we had to change the goalpost from AI to AGI. And AGI, according to this guy who is a genius, just raised $1 billion, is like within 10 years, right around the corner. And I don't know that that's a guarantee according to him, but it's like saying that it could be right around the corner. And clearly a lot of people think that because of the valuations that Nvidia has, how their stock price is like just blown up. How the CEO is also saying the same thing, that AGI could be right around the corner, that pretty much all the jobs and everything are going to be changed. Everything's going to be changed. Everything's transforming. And ultimately, though, the people that are saying this and have the biggest voice are the people that have the most to gain from such hype. And that is where I'm somewhat skeptical of all of this. I'm skeptical because I use the tools every single day, and I'm constantly reminded of how far it still has to go in order for it to even be like a truly effective partner for me. I love how it can be like basically the rubber duck. It can give me ideas. It sometimes solves the problems that I'm facing very quickly. It writes boilerplate very, very well. And I definitely love having it as a tool. And when I say it, I mean any sort of AI tool, whether it's Copilot or ChatGPT. I did try to use Claude AI the other day for the first time, and it actually just didn't even work. From what I understand, this is like actually having a lot of issues when it comes to resources available. So they have like a pro version, and I couldn't even get the free sample to give me anything. Literally, it's like, hey, are you working? And it was returning an error message. And I was just thinking, like, if that's the case, like, I'm certainly not paying for pro, because it seems like if the company can't get more resources, this thing's going, going belly up here pretty soon if they don't turn that around. But I understand, or I've heard that it's very helpful, especially for coding and I don't know. I'll use it whenever it works, but it's not working as of yesterday. And then, so all these different tools, right? And then I also use Gemini. So Gemini from Google, and honestly, I wasn't impressed with that at all. I'd much rather use ChatGPT. Like, it wasn't even giving me code samples I was asking for, and just. So again, it's great for like, hey, maybe you should try this, this, and this, or, this is what this piece of code is doing. And, it's great for explanations and things like that, but it's not really just like writing the code and spitting it out for me. One of the things that I find troubling with all this AI stuff is like Google Gemini costs the company $191 million to train. The reports with OpenAI for ChatGPT is that it costs about $8.5 billion. I don't know if that's, specifically on 4, how much of that money goes towards 4, but if that's the case, like $8.5 billion, you're going to need billions to just even get anything off the ground. So for this safe superintelligence company, it has $1 billion investment. It probably is the quickest to $1 billion ever, but it's going to take far more than that, most likely. So I know that this video is like kind of just sort of a little all over the place in regards to what my thoughts are about this. My thoughts are that if I were going to invest anybody in AI, it would be this dude, even over Sam Altman. But you know, everybody that's saying that this stuff is right around the corner, there's a lot to be gained from those individuals to say such a thing. And I'm still skeptical of it because I just haven't personally seen it. I've seen the impressive results. I agree that they're great, but it's got a long way to go before some of this hype, I think, is realized. And then here's the biggest thing, and I'll just close the video out with this, is like my biggest piece of skepticism is that if any one of these companies and any one of these angel investors and all these billions of dollars that are being thrown into this market now, in a race to superintelligence, a race to AGI, you're never going to get around. Like my main piece of skepticism is that the U.S. government that basically controls the world with the U.S. dollar, which is backed by the strongest military, which is the U.S. military and all its allies. How the hell are they going to allow any private individual company to control AGI? So for all this investment that's going in there, as soon as it's released, as soon as it's actually obtained, it's going to have to even be a secret from the government, which is probably not going to ever happen. And then it's going to immediately be taken over by the government. I don't see any other way. Like, we're not going to allow Microsoft to have a super intelligence that could actually basically make our military obsolete. You know, it's like, it's just not going to happen. It's going to be swallowed up by the largest, most powerful governments in the world. And I think that's really where the race is. So I think for a lot of government officials and things who actually are monitoring this and don't understand any of it, they're just sort of sitting back. But I would imagine that there's still there's people looking at this and ready to take action whenever it's achieved. So my biggest question is, for those that are investing in this, unless you're just making a slightly better chatbot than what we currently have, or maybe a lot better than what we have, but if it's not true artificial general intelligence, which is what the goal of all this stuff is, there's obviously a monetary reason to invest, and that's why these companies are doing that. But I honestly believe that the hype is that, hey, AGI is around the corner, and that some private company is actually going to control it, and that's just never going to happen.